Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by BetterHelp.com and LittleShaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. Today I wanted to talk to you about something that is universal in narcissistic relationships, and that is something we could call ego trauma. Ego gets a bad rap, mostly because we only mention it when someone's ego is causing problems for them or for other people. But the ego is the part of us that speaks as I. The Latin translation of the word I, as in I went to the store, is ego. It refers to your sense of self. There's a lot of ego involvement in relationships with narcissists on the part of the narcissist and for other people. The manipulations employed by narcissists generally involve the ego of other people, and they consist of ego feeding, ego starving, and ego shaming. Ego feeding happens during the idealization phase of the cycle, where someone is flattered, love bombed, given gifts or excessive attention, compared favorably to other people, and generally treated well, often exceedingly, even unrealistically well. They may be seen as perfect or heroic by the narcissist, a rescuer, a savior, a soulmate. There's often a very intense focus on the person or the relationship. The person receiving this level of attention and idealization feels seen and loved in a way they have never been seen or loved before, even if the level of intensity makes them uncomfortable at first. People in this phase of the cycle may do a lot to keep it going, including abandoning other things in order to be with the narcissist as much as possible. Ego starving happens when the favorable comparisons stop, the excessive attention dwindles, the intensity is dialed back. The person is no longer seen as perfect or not as perfect. They're not seen as heroic or as a savior anymore. The cracks are starting to show. The new has worn off. The narcissist may appear to be bored or disengaged with the relationship. The other person is confused about why this is happening, and upon receiving no real explanation from their narcissistic partner or family member, they can come to believe that they must have caused that. This is an idea that is, of course, usually enthusiastically reinforced by narcissists who believe that all of their feelings are created by external forces and other people and never have an internal cause. In order to rectify this situation, people will often go very far to try to bring the relationship back to good and get back to the place where they were seen as ideal, because that feels so amazing. Ego shaming occurs during the devaluation phase of the cycle, where someone is accused, attacked, belittled, demeaned, compared unfavorably to other people, and generally treated very poorly. They may be seen as irredeemably flawed, unfailingly foolish, or unrepentingly evil, an abuser, a saboteur, not worthy of the narcissist's time. There may be a complete withdrawal from the relationship except for negative interactions. People in this phase of the cycle may do things they have never done or ever thought they would do, because the pain of being seen as so bad when they were seen so ideally before is extreme, especially when there may seem to be no real reason for it at all, or none that you can figure out. This phase may be followed by an exit from the relationship, whether temporary or permanent, or another idealization phase might occur. These relationships don't always follow a strict cycle of idealize, devalue, discard in that order, by the way. They can alternate between idealization and devaluation for years, with a true discard never happening at all. The relationship may be abandoned, resecured, over and over again as it cycles through the phases, often with hoovering occurring between these phases. This can be extremely damaging to people. Ego trauma is an attack on your identity, your sense of self. Narcissistic relationships are different from other toxic or abusive relationships in this key way. They involve a massive amount of ego trauma, not just for the reasons that we've already discussed, but because pathologically narcissistic people create false images of others, and then they have a relationship with those images as if they're real. They act upon, react to, and interact with these images as if that's who somebody really is. They've also created false images of themselves, and they expect other people to behave as though that's the reality of who the narcissist is. These images are often completely different from the actual objective experiences of everyone around the narcissistic person, and the effect of this on somebody is that of extreme gaslighting. For example, being interacted with as if you are an untrustworthy thief when you've never stolen anything, or being expected to react to a very physically abusive person as if they've never hurt a fly, or being reacted to as if you're dangerous and scary when you've never done anything to provoke that response from somebody, and much, much more. This goes beyond just being told that you're doing things that you're not doing. This is a complete immersion in an environment where you are relentlessly interacted with and reacted to as if you actually are somebody else. It'd be like walking onto a part in a movie that you didn't know you were playing, and there's this entire history and all these scenes that have happened that you have no idea what's going on and you don't know what anybody's talking about. And this is relentless. Relentless as in it never stops, even for a second, because this is their reality. Further, you're expected to interact with and react to another person as if they're not who they are either. Even small challenges to these narratives may be met with extreme backlash, hostility, and punishment. You are required to literally ignore the objective experience that makes up your reality and participate in a false one in order to exist in the relationship at all. This results in constantly conflicting realities. It is extremely confusing and disorienting for people, and the damage that can be done to a person's sense of self is enormous if they are not aware that this is what's happening. The damage this does to children in particular is devastating. It can be cataclysmic. It's only when a person becomes an adult and can start to see these things for how they really are that they can start to assess the damage that has been done by this. It's important to understand, though, that what we're really talking about here is somebody's opinion. That's it. That's all it is. No matter how important it seems, no matter how much it hurts, in the end, that's it. That's all it is. It's somebody's opinion. Not only is it somebody's opinion, it's the opinion of a person who is profoundly unable to see things as they truly are in any way. It is not reality, and it should never carry more weight than your own opinion of yourself. Nobody's opinion should. Self-esteem is called self-esteem because it's what we think of ourselves. The ego manipulations of narcissistic people are designed to interfere with that. This is how they function. They derive their own worth completely from other people's opinions, and this is the only way they know how to interact with anybody else. I decide my worth based on other people's opinions of me, and they decide their worth based on my opinion of them. It is up to us to not allow that to happen. When we do the ego work that is necessary in order to heal from these relationships, we will find that the idealized evaluation cycles no longer affect us in the same way because we aren't as vulnerable to idealization anymore. We don't need to be idealized, and we're no longer totally crushed by being devalued. It still hurts because being devalued by anybody would hurt, but it doesn't devastate us when we know who and what we are and who and what we are not. This is the best armor you can have against ego trauma. Someone else cannot define you and then destroy you by capriciously changing that definition when you define yourself. I hope that clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. I take appointments online, over the phone, via text, via messenger, via email, and through Skype. So if you're interested in speaking with me one-on-one, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that. I teach workshops, seminars, and clinics throughout the year, so if you're interested in seeing what we're running this month, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that. And if you are interested in joining our support group with twice weekly meetings throughout the month and more, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that as well. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by betterhelp.com and littleshaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you. Have a beautiful day.